Hey, hi everyone. Good evening. Charlotte here from Enriching Environments on Tuesday, the 3rd of August. And I'm here in Dubai. And we're just going to wait a few moments when everyone joins. I know there's quite a few of you who sent me DMs and sent me comments about this topic of play. We're going to talk about the importance of play, and it is really an important topic because we can really, hi Annabelle, we can really get tied up in knots about whether our children, hi Faithlin, hi, is Melissa there too? You're probably both watching. We can really tie ourselves up in knots about play. Are our children playing too much? Are they actually learning anything? So it's a really, really good topic to start with, to really dive into this evening. And I've had messages about how a 3-4-year-old didn't want to do any activities with her mum. She just said she wanted to play. And then another comment was about how do we know when we play with our child? When are we playing? When are we interfering? Hi Tanya, how are you? What are the boundaries? How do we know? You know, we all talk about it's really, hi everyone joining. Sorry, I'm not keeping up with everyone. We always talk about, play is really, really important, but what is our role in that? And that's what the question I've had from a lot of people. Where do we fit in as the adult, as the caregiver, or the educator, even in this setting, or a parent? Where do we fit into this play model, if you like? Where do we fit in this scenario? And let's firstly start off with saying that play is the work of the child, as Dr. Montessori said, and it is of vital importance. And let's just quickly go through a few reasons of why it's so important. Children learn through play, essentially, whether they are a baby. And so if we very quickly cover what you can expect in early childhood in terms of play. So a baby from birth to 10 months, they are asking the question, what is this? When they pick up anything, they need to explore. Play is basically exploration. That's exactly what it is. And so a baby from birth to 10 months, once they can put things in their mouth, the first thing they will do, they will put it in their mouth. They will explore it with their mouths. And that the reason for that is they are asking the question, what is this? And so instead of preventing our baby from putting things in their mouth, we must just give them things that they can put in their mouth. So things that are safe, things that are clean, all the obvious things, but they need to explore with their mouths. Of course, if as they're a baby, the way that they explore, the way that they learn is if they're being breastfed, they learn at the breast because that's what they have in their mouth, or if they're bottle fed, them from the teat on the bottle hay. So that's how they are learning. That's the first way that they learn before they manipulate anything with their hands. So it's really important that we provide them with items that they can put in their mouth safely. So we mustn't stop babies from putting things in their mouth. So that's the first thing to say. So from birth to 10 months, what is this? That's the question they are asking. Then there's a second stage, from 10 to 20 months is, what can I do with this? So everything still will go in their mouths, actually. It's but they would turn it over more and be sort of working out what they can do with it. But still, a lot will go in their mouths. Almost everything will go in their mouth still, because they still need to explore. That's still their primary way of working out what these things are and what they mean in the context of their world. And then after 20 months, there's a distinct shift. And that question is that they are asking is, what can this object become? So that is when, for example, you start to see symbolic play. So a wooden block will become a phone, or a block will become a car, or a wooden block can become anything. Anything can become anything, basically. That's called symbolic play. And that is when, if your child hands you a wooden block and says, Papa or Mama is on the phone, you've got to answer that wooden block, and you've got to pretend that you then have that conversation. It's really, really important that when they get to that stage of symbolic play, that we dive in with the fun with them. And also you'll notice around 20 months, they will, from 18, 20 months, they will be happy to build towers of like 2, 3, 4 blocks maybe. They'll start building towers from wooden blocks or plastic blocks or whatever blocks you have. And again, that's asking this question, what can this object become? Literally, how high can I build this? So those are just 3 stages of play. Those are 3 questions that children are asking. If you want to dive deeper into the distinct types of play, so a newborn, a young baby is just solitary play, they don't play sociably, you can look, if you Google, actually, sorry, I forgot to say at the beginning, run and get your journal, your notepad, and write down, you can take notes as we go through. So Mildred Parton is, she was a researcher, I believe she was a psychologist, and she did a study back, or released a study back in 1929, and came to conclusions about the different types of play that children engaged in according to their age. So a baby is very much solitary play, and then the older, hi Stephanie, and the older that they get, the more play becomes sociable and cooperative. So your newborn, your young baby will be very much, if they've got a floor mirror, they're gazing in the mirror, they're turning over objects in their hands, they're looking and they're mouthing things. And then, for example, with my children, who are 4 and 6, now their play is sociable. It's role play, it's cooperative play. The majority of that is led by Olivia because she's 6.5, but Harry, presumably because they're siblings as well, they dive in, and there's just so much amazing pretend play for extended periods of time. They can do periods of pretend play now for an hour and a half without needing more than a handful of sentences of engagement with me, which is great because it means I can get on with cooking and cleaning and all the other things I need to do. But it's so vital, and through play they. The point I was going back to is Mildred Parton. Google Mildred Parton, stages of play, and she talks through all these different stages of play. And as I said, that was research that was published in 1929, and it's still used now as the accepted stages of play. So it's really, really useful if you want to learn more about what you can be expecting and what the different names are. So, for example, solitary play for a baby, and then as a toddler, it can seem like children are playing together. 2 children will be playing really close to each other, but that's actually what we call parallel play because they're not necessarily engaging. There isn't any objective to the game. They might be, swapping toys or taking turns depending on the personality of each child and the interaction, but they don't get into social cooperative play till a little bit later. Anyway, it's really interesting. You'll dive in that. I did that on my Montessori diploma, and I find it really, really fascinating. So let's talk about the benefits of play. So there's lots of them. Playing is learning, essentially. That is how they learn, and it's the foundation for everything. It's the foundation for social skills. It's the foundation for problem solving, cognitive development. It improves communication, language, and vocabulary. When they're playing with more than one child, as I say, when they're older, social cooperative play, they're going to learn about turn taking. They're going to learn about waiting. They're going to learn about fitting into a social group, fitting into a community, what it really means to be part of a social group. So it's hugely, hugely important. You will also notice as your children, beyond the age of 2, really, that's when I really started to notice it with Olivia, it's how they process their emotions and make sense of their world. So to give you an example, when Olivia was 2, and at that stage, we used to go to the library for the library reading with an amazing lady called Louise. The library used to be just next to the theatre at Morley Emirates, and now it's moved to somewhere else. But we used to go every Sunday, and we used to go on the bus and then come back. And when Olivia, and during the library session, Olivia was not a child who was very, who would push herself forward and join in when she was little. Now she's very, very confident, but she was more reserved as a baby, as a toddler, until the age of 4.5. And so we would go to the library, and I could feel that she was enjoying herself, but she never wanted to stand up. She didn't want to join in with the songs. She didn't want to go and sit with Louise, and Olivia would be sort of the the reserved, and it's a horrible word, / shy one, and people would try and encourage her to join in. She didn't want to, but it was cool. I knew that it was just her. But when we came home, she would then burst into life. She would get all of the teddies, she would line them up, and then she would literally act out the whole of the library scene. So she would be Louise, and then the teddies would be the children, and she would read stories. And Louise used to read the Harry McClary stories and lots of other great stories, but we had a lot of the Harry McClary and Slinky Malinky ones. And Olivia would read the books to the teddies as Louise had done to her and the other children. And it was so amazing to see that process, to see her working it out, like making sense of that whole scenario, and processing it through, and just learning about social interactions. And the teddies would have interactions, similar interactions to the ones that children had had in the library if they had a disagreement or someone had stood on someone's foot, or which is inevitable when you've got groups of small children. Hey, so it was really, really fascinating, and to see that close up and firsthand was amazing. And she would spend long periods of time when we got back from the library doing this, and I've got some beautiful videos and photos of her doing that. So it helps them make sense of their world. And hi everyone joining. And then if we then look at emotional processing, you'll often is that what Yasmin is doing, Nada? Amazing. That's really, really good to hear. It's so incredible. So, and then also, if we're talking about emotional regulation, if there is an upset with a friend, or an upset with a sibling, or an upset at nursery or school or daycare or summer camp or what have you, you will often then see that in the role play and the pretend play when they get back home with their teddies or dollies or doll's house or blocks or whatever you have at home for your pretend play, or puppets as well. Puppets are a really good thing for pretend play. So you will see the scenarios being played out. And I remember there was a stage where Olivia was being bothered by people being aggressive with her, and I really, really saw that in the teddies, and she would be correcting the teddies and using the language that we do about, he's working with that at the moment, please wait until he's finished, he's not ready to pass it on to you, what can you do differently, what would you like to do while you're waiting for it? She would use all the language that I use the whole time, and it's really, really amazing to see and to witness all of this. So the emotional processing and often emotional regulation goes on in play. So it's important for so many different reasons. What other things do I have on my list? Increases creativity, of course, because they are oops, my cats are under the chair. So I've got my stand here, and the cats are now under where my camera is, my stand is. I'm going to have a fight. So if you can hear noise in the background, it's probably them. Sorry about that. So increasing creativity. Of course, when they're playing, they're using their imagination. They are telling a story from their imagination. So it improves creativity. And anything that comes into the imagination forms as a story. So it's coming out as this role play. And then it may very well come out in a drawing or a painting later. And then when they're older and they're writing, that's going to come out in a story. So everything helps. Everything contributes to their creativity and their imagination. And what else do we have? So let's talk about the role of parents, actually, and caregivers and educators in play. And we'll go to Huda, one of my followers' questions about what that role is of the adult, what the adult should or shouldn't be doing in a play scenario. So play should be child-led and unstructured and unscheduled, and not planned as much as possible. Having said that, we don't live in an ideal world where children have 8 hours to play a day. You know, both parents could be at work, and then literally when they come back, there's only half an hour for free play before it's dinner and bedtime and what have you. So I know that it's not possible for children to spend hours and hours in free play, no matter how much we may want it, and no matter how much we might be creating those conditions. It just might not be possible. So let me tell you what the adult's role is. the play must be child-led. So really, really simply, if your child is playing on their own and doesn't seek engagement with you, then leave them. If they do seek engagement with you, sometimes it can be obvious, like if they're verbal, they'll ask you, or it can be less obvious, you know, they could throw something at you, and that could be an invitation to play. If they're younger, if they're a seated baby, or they're a toddler that doesn't yet have the language skills, you know, an invitation to play might not be as obvious as you think it would be. So look out for those signs of engagement, and if they want to engage, play with them. If they seek you out to play. If they don't seek you out, leave them. And so, and Huda had asked the question about what's interference and what's not interference. So as a rule of thumb, if a child is engaged in work or cleaning or any activity or play, then we don't interfere. We don't interfere even to praise. We don't interfere even to say, I love you. We don't interfere to go and snuggle them. We just let them do their own thing, because when they're doing their own thing, they're building concentration. And concentration is something that we must foster and provide the conditions for them to, for that to blossom in the early years. It's not something that magically comes. Concentration is something that we can cultivate. And of course, as we know, it's going to come in really, really handy later when they're studying for exams, or they are writing their thesis at university, or their PhD, or they're in a working environment. So concentration is something we really want to foster. And just a really simple way of doing that is, if they're engaged in something, don't interrupt. If they want to play with us, if they invited us into play in whatever way they have done that, then always play with them. Always sit down and as much as possible, play with them, engage with them, and let them lead. That's what's really, really crucial. If we go in and take over, they're going to lose interest. So follow their lead, see what they're doing, and you can pick something up or hold out your hand so they pass something to you. Mostly a child, if you hold your hand out to a little baby or a toddler, or any young child, they are invariably going to put something in it. They're going to hold your hand, and they're going to put something in your hand. So invite, once they've invited you, let them lead it. That's really, really important. Sorry for my cats yowling in the background. I don't know what they're up to. So that's really, really important. I might have to put that one out actually. He's really yowling, hey? Maybe it's very strange. Sorry. Where was I? Yeah, so the great thing about play is it gives us a chance to observe our child. It gives us a chance to notice what they're doing. So observation really means, hi Lena, observation really means look at your child, notice what they're doing without interfering, without needing to take over. If we think of it in the Montessori context, it's there's only three things. There's only three rules in a Montessori community or Montessori home. That is, you do not do anything to harm yourself, you do not do anything to harm others, and you do not do anything to harm the community or the environment. So if a child is playing and they're adhering to all three of those ground rules, not doing anything dangerous to themselves, to the environment, or to anyone else, then leave them, let them play. Just observe, just take a moment, notice what they're doing. And the way that they play, what they're doing, hearing what they're saying, if they're verbal, just watching what they're doing, how they're manipulating the toys or whatever it is that they're working with, even if they're cleaning the windows, that gives us so much information. And that's why we talk about observation so much in Montessori. You don't need Montessori materials to be a Montessori, and you don't need a clean, tidy Montessori home to be a Montessorian. It's all about the way that we approach the child with respect, and we observe them to see who the child really, really is. When we can step back and observe, that's when we see the soul of the child. That's when we allow the soul and the spirit of the child to unfold without us projecting any of our stuff on them. That's what really, really want. Hi, Sam. We want to let our child unfold without us projecting anything. That's really what our aim is. And observation is a beautiful tool for doing that. So stop, notice what's happening. If you've got your journal close by, just note down what they're doing. Note down what they're manipulating in their hands, what they're putting in their mouth, what they're interested in, what they're saying. Just note down a few things, because it's really, really interesting to then look back at that when they're a bit older. It's really fun to look back, actually, and you can see the stages of their development and how they're actually growing and developing, and what they're learning through their play as well. So observation is such a great tool, and you don't need to be a Montessori educator or any type of educator to observe. It literally means watching and noticing what our child is doing. So Lena, your question that you said about, that you said to me, I think it was last week, wasn't it, about Janine not wanting to do any work with you or activities with you. She just wants to play. And my answer to you at the time, and I'll repeat to everyone, is that's actually a compliment. When our child wants to do their own thing, and Janine is a bit older, it's not like she's a baby, hey, she's a bit older, and she is usually in school during the academic year, and now it's the holiday time, and she wants to have this completely self-directed, child-led play, and it's so good for her. When we were earlier on, I was going through the benefits of the play, Lena, which you know, of course, I'm sure, as well, but it's so important for them to process everything that's going on in their lives. It's so important for them to make sense of their world from their perspective, because even if we play with them, they're not getting it from... we can only play from our perspective, and they can only play from their perspective. If we let them lead and do what they need to do, then they can process and make sense and understand exactly what they need to. Our child knows themselves best, and putting it in a Montessori context, it's always follow the child. What our child always tells us what we need to know about them, what they need next, what we need to know about them and their needs and their wishes and their preferences, and what stage they are in development. So if she wants to just play, we can, or any child wants to just play, we can relax, because we know that they are learning so much. There are so many cognitive, emotional, language, physical developmental benefits. Every aspect of development is enhanced through play. And whether that's playing on their own, or role playing, or seeking in active or rough play with us, you know, chase and tickle and hide and seek and rough and tumble, all play is good play, as long as we're adhering just to the 3 ground rules that I said very simply. Don't do anything to harm yourself, the environment, or others. And that pretty much covers everything, hey? And then, so within those 3 boundaries, then all we need to do is just provide the time and space. And also, we don't need a lot of stuff. To give an example where we are with play, we have a huge thing of secondhand Lego that a friend gave us really kindly, and we've had that for a couple of months now, and the children play with that a lot. We've got wooden blocks. We've got the 4 Elements Grimm's puzzle. We've got some old wooden blocks that are chewed from when they're little, and lots of teddies. So most of their play is teddies, Lego, blocks, the 4 Elements puzzle, mixed in with the percussion instruments and the tongue drum. So we don't have, and for costumes and things like that, they use bed sheets or old clothes. I've got a couple of silk scarves. So I don't have anything specifically labelled or branded, or costumes or anything like that. We don't need to... The only area we need to set the scene is literally the space and time, because they are going to play in the way that they need to, with the materials that they have and they find in the environment. So if you don't have costumes and dressing up thing, don't worry, you don't need them. Old bits of material, sheets, duvet covers, scarves, all of those things, you know, clothes that and the baby clothes that they use to dress the teddies in is just so gorgeous. They will have these tiny cardigans that their fathers, I think auntie, knitted when they were newborns. I haven't got one to hand right now, but they're so tiny and so gorgeous, and they dress the teddies in there, and it's just so divine. But we don't need to spend money or invest anything other than time in it. It's really free flow and as natural as we can make it without. It's one of these situations where we just don't need to try at all. We don't need to try too hard. The more hands off we can be and let them lead it, just in within the parameters that we have of time and space, according to how large or small your house is. That's the main thing, providing time for it. And if, for example, you're in a scenario where both parents work really long hours and they are at summer camp or daycare or what have you all day, and there isn't an opportunity for free play, then it's a really good idea to look at sort of the beginning and the end of the day. Where are those pockets when you're at home together where you can provide opportunities for free play, for unscheduled play, even if it's half an hour in the morning and half an hour in the evening, just so that, because they release so much during play and they make sense of so much during the play, particularly if they are outside of the house all day. They're going to really need that half an hour play in the evening, just so they can settle back into home, so that they can process everything that's happened during their day. It's really valuable. So if it's possible, just look at your day and see, if the children are at home all day, then you don't need to do this. I'm saying for both working parents where the children don't have an opportunity for free play during the day, then that would be a good idea to sort of schedule it in, to really segment out these times where you are intentional in giving them free play with no distractions or interactions or TV on in the background or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? If you're in a very dynamic household, then definitely set in those times, predetermined times for free play, so that they have that chance to release, so they have that window of opportunity to release and play. But if they're at home all day with you or another caregiver, then they're probably going to have a lot of time for free play anyway, so you don't need to structure it at all. But in essence, the more the better. The less structured and the less money you spend on it, the better. The more time. You don't need a lot of space. We live in a really small apartment. We've got a nice terrace, but we don't have a huge amount of space in the apartment. So you don't need a huge amount of space. Time is the most valuable thing that you can give them. And it's just a case of weaving that into your day according to what's possible for your family or your scenario. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to have a sip of water if anyone has any questions. And I just wanted to refer to as well Mildred Parton, the 1929 research that she did on the different stages of play. So solitary play going all the way up to cooperative play. Google that. Mildred Parton was her name, and it was a 1929 study, which was really interesting about the different stages of play and what we can expect, the type of play that a child engages in according to their age. That's really interesting if you want to dive in a little bit more. But I think that's everything for this evening. What else do I want to say? I've covered all of my bullet points. And it's just really vital. It's a vital part of learning it through play. There's a great quote, isn't there? I don't know, is it from Fred Rogers? It's through play that children learn everything that's important in the world. Something like that. It's a beautiful quote. Or Nada has a question. Can free play be based on fantasy, like animals driving, etc.? You mean guided by you, Nada, or that's something that Yasmina is has come from her own imagination. Yeah, definitely from her own imagination. I mean, anything's possible. That's what's incredible with children of this age. Is obviously we just observe what's happening and what's there, and the more rich their imagination, then the more complex the storylines they'll come up with, and the more complex ideas and contexts and ideas and concepts they'll come up with. So yeah, the more rich the ideas, the better. I mean, I wouldn't, for example, start suggesting from you that animals are driving or doing anything like that, which isn't based in reality. But of course, if it comes from her, then that's absolutely fine. So for example, teddies, driving and talking. I mean, of course, teddies don't drive or talk or what have you, but it's completely guided by them, isn't it? It's absolutely whatever is coming out of her imagination and her head. And because you have a second one, a little baby as well, you'll see the way that their imagination, their creativity develops, and interactions develop as they play is so beautiful and so incredible. It's really, really, it's so heartwarming to see that the relationship develop through play. And actually, if you have more than one child, as the younger one becomes older, you'll see that relationship growing in the context of play, and it's just really, really powerful. Yeah, if she is bringing fantasy, and there's nothing wrong with that, it's literally just that's where she is, and that's where she's that's what she's picked up from somewhere, or maybe just come from her imagination. Does anyone else have any questions for this evening? I've been put off by that slightly bizarre comment which has just come in, but never mind. And let's just see what's going on here. Okay, no, that's fine. Done. Pleasure, Nada. I hope you are well, and how's little one? I hope little one must be big now. I hope that you, I guess you didn't travel, perhaps. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you all for watching. Oh, so sweet, Sam. So Sam's comment is, Aya has started role-playing on her own, feeding her teddy and understanding play food. Thank you, Charlotte, for working with us. That's so gorgeous. And Aya is the age that Olivia started doing that. Really lots of role play on her own, and that as you see that nurturing side come out, as you say, feeding her teddy and nurturing their teddies or dollies or whatever you have. It's such a beautiful stage to see that, and it shows in boys as well as girls. Harry is extremely nurturing in the role play situations, and because I use cloth nappies on them, I still kept a couple of them, the cloth nappies, the bamboo pads and the covers. And Harry is so good at putting a cloth nappy on a teddy, I can't tell you. It's really, really amazing. So you see the nurturing side in boys and girls, and I'm sure that Harry's is developed because of him seeing Olivia doing it. But it's definitely present, and something that really to be celebrated and to encourage. So we don't need a lot of things, it's just providing that space. And it's so lovely to hear that. Oh, so sweet. Sam's comment was, Aya wants to hug everything. It's just such a great cuddly stage. Oh my goodness, the toddlers, it's just so gorgeous. And actually I've found, in terms of the play, is that Olivia between 4 and 6 wasn't really that cuddly. Sort of, she seemed like she withdrew a little bit, and now she's super cuddly again. It's really, really interesting. And their play has come up and down like that. There was a stage where they were arguing a lot for sort of like a year, and now the play is incredible. As I said at the beginning, sort of an hour and a half, 2 hours of play. So it's beautiful. It ebbs and flows. The golden rules are, if they want to play with us, then engage in their play and let them lead. Let it be child-led. And if they don't want to, if they're just playing on their own, then don't interfere. Those are the only things I need you to take away today. You don't need to spend anything. Play with them if they want to, and don't interfere if they don't engage. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Loads of people came in, and thanks so much for all of your interaction. Next week, we will have another Instagram Live. I'll just have a look through on my requested topics, and see what we're going to cover next week. If you have any requests for topics for Instagram Live, just send me a DM, and I will put it into the list. And until next week, I'll see you. Thank you so much, the eccentric poet, for joining. I think this is the first one you've joined of mine. Thank you so much, and keep it coming. I hope you all enjoyed your journal prompt today. And the journal prompt was, how can I expand my child in my interactions with her today? And actually, I'm going to do a series of posts on that, on this idea of expansion within ourselves and expanding our child rather than shrinking them. Because I've had lots of messages since I posted that this afternoon saying, what do you mean? What do I do? I'm feeling really depleted. How can I possibly expand my child? So I'm going to, Melissa and Faith Lynn, how is your journaling going? How have you manage with the expansion, and how you're going to expand Layal today? I'd love to hear your feedback on that. So keep your eyes peeled. I'm going to do more posts regularly on journal prompts, so keep your journal close. Any of you who've worked with me know that I'm a big fan of journaling and just getting things out of our subconscious mind, bringing up feelings, bringing up discomfort, bringing up things that we are bringing up things that we're working with on ourselves or with our children, and then using our inner wisdom to guide us, using our intuition or God or source or light or whatever your belief system is. So watch out for more journal prompts, and as ever, just keep in touch on the DMs, and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks so much. Have a beautiful evening. And episode 4 of the Montessori Mission is due out this week. That's with Trisha Mokino, who is a Native American educator from the Keres tribe of New Mexico. And she has a beautiful story to share with us on the Montessori Mission. So I look forward to seeing you all next week for Top to Tuesday on Instagram Live. Bye-bye. Take care. Lots of love. Bye-bye.